I'd like to now declare open this public hearing of the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security for its review of the listing of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a state sponsor of terrorism under the Criminal Code. I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past and present. This is the first time an entity has been listed under the State Sponsors of Terrorism framework. Under subsection 1110(7), subsection 2 of the Criminal Code, the PJCIS may review a listing at any time and report its comments and recommendations to both houses of the Commonwealth Parliament. Next is the Australian-Iranian Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Hosseini. I am the Secretary and Public Officer of Australian-Iranian Council, in short AIC.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. My name is Mahdi Adhari. I'm appearing today on behalf of my community and as a board member of Australian-Iranian Council.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. Now, although the committee doesn't require you to give evidence under oath, I should advise that this hearing is a legal proceeding of the Commonwealth Parliament and therefore has the same standing as proceedings of the respective houses. The Australian-Iranian Council.
Honourable Chair and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before this committee on the review of listing of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps under the Criminal Code. Since Australia's listing of IRGC in November last year, subsequent developments have reinforced the security concerns that underpin that decision. The European Union followed with its own designation on 19th of February this year, signaling growing convergence among democratic partners regarding the IRGC's proxy activity, coercive transnational conduct, and threats to security. This international alignment underscores that Australia's action was not only justified, but also consistent with the evolving global assessments. Now, I try to be brief and to the point. Under Division 110 of Criminal Code, the legal test is whether there are reasonable grounds to believe a foreign state entity, directly or indirectly, has engaged in, assisted, or fostered terrorist acts, including conduct relevant to Australia. The statutory inclusion of indirect and proxy conduct is particularly important when we are assessing entities that operate through affiliated networks across borders. In August 2025, as we are aware, the Australian government publicly acknowledged that Australian Security Intelligence Organization, ASIO, assessed that Iran, principally through its security services, including the IRGC, directed at least 2 anti-Semitic attacks on Australian soil, involving targets in Sydney and Melbourne. The government responded by expelling the Iranian ambassador, suspending the operations at the Iranian embassy, and moving to strengthen legal frameworks to counter state-sponsored terrorism. Outside Australia, 6 years ago, on 8 January 2020, Ukraine International Airline flight PS-75G was shot down shortly after departing Tehran, killing all 176 civilians, including 15 children on board. Iranian authorities later acknowledged the responsibility, and international legal processes are ongoing in multiple jurisdictions. This tragic event highlights the IRGC's operational posture and the real consequence of its actions. The downing of a civilian aircraft demonstrates a readiness to employ lethal force with the catastrophic consequences for the civilians of multiple nationalities. When it comes to Australians, Australian citizens live, travel, reside, operate in regions where IRGC forces and its proxy networks are active. The relevance to Australia lies in the demonstrated capability and operational posture of IRGC. Now back to the main point of this review. For Australia, the risks of weakening and reversing this listing are stark. It would reduce the preventive tools that we are now have available under our counter-terrorism, foreign interference, and financial disruption laws, at a time when hostile state actors are seeking to exploit networks beyond their borders. So we should not only reverse this decision, but also strengthen the measures even more than before. A good example is the petition that our association already launched, petition EN 9299, which is requesting the government to revisit our visa systems, measurements, and strengthen that even more than before. It also requests the government to deny any kind of visa application from IR and IRGC members, their immediate family members, and associates, any type of visa. Also to review any existing visas that issued and any citizenship that granted, and revoke any identified cases. Chair, with your permission, I will now invite my colleague, Mr. Athari, a committee member of AIC, to continue and close our opening statement.
No worries. If you could do so briefly, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Eljan. Thank you, Chair. Failing to maintain the RGC listing as a terrorist organization would embolden the regime, signal that state terrorism, even on Australian soil, carries no real consequences, and put vulnerable communities like Iranian Australians and the Jewish community at greater risk. It would weaken Australia's security at a time that the state threats are intensifying. History warns us. Appeasement let the Nazi regime grow unchecked. Today, treating this murderous theocracy as a normal state risks the same failure. We cannot wait for more atrocities here on our shores or in Iran before acting. Honorable members, listing the IRGC was the right decision, and we thank you for that. Today, in this review, you must reaffirm it, strengthen it, and enforce it without any delay, so we don't see more fast-track visas for families of sanctioned IRGC commanders here. Australia stands for freedom, dignity, and the rule of law. The people of Iran and the world are watching. Maintain the listing, strengthen it, and send a clear message. Australia will not normalize a terrorist enterprise masquerading as a state. History will judge us whether we stood with humanity or looked away. And at the end, I would like to ask a question, or maybe a concern, on behalf of my community members. Why do we often act late? When we have countless pieces of evidence of an organization, an ideology, or a government's criminal acts all around the world, and now even in Australia, why do we wait for some horrible incidents to happen on our shores first and then act respectively? Thank you for your time and providing the opportunity to hear our thoughts.
Thank you. Ali?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I appreciate that we are witnesses here. We are from Iranian heritage, and we are very keen to amplify our compatriots' voices here, which is we have to and we should do it. But then for sake of this review and this committee, I want to address the question that Senator McDonald asked about not what to do next, but why this listing should remain and what's the grounds for doing so. So I want to take us to the helicopter point of view to look at the bigger picture. So the whole goal and mission of the Iranian regime and IRGC, which is the long arm of the regime inside and abroad, is to basically develop and implement their ideology across the globe, directly and indirectly. They are not shy to hide it, and this is part of their just slogans that they are shouting it here and there. So it is not hidden from everyone, right? And when it comes to, I think I'm very bad in memorizing their names. We had many witnesses that rightfully mentioned different aspects of, what's IR, Islamic regime, Iranian regime, and IRGC doing. But I guess it was Soren which rightfully touched on the geographic, aspect and dimension of this. So if you look at the US and Europe, we have a more stronger presence of the IRGC. When it comes to Australia, because we are very lucky and because of our geographic location, we have less presence. But now, why they should basically seek to come to Australia and establish their presence here, right? But not like East Asia or somewhere else. And I guess again, some other people pointed to this point that, hey, we are living in a democratic country, which is, we have a rule of laws. We have, established systems. We have, great financial systems. We have all those things that every entity like IRGC and Iranian wish to have, right? And then if you look at the timeline and the pressure that is on the Iranian regime and IRGC in the Europe and in the US, I guess Australia is the next haven for them to basically seek. And if we talk about, petition to review the visa system, if we talk about implementing measures to strengthen, we impose sanctions, which is great, and we appreciate it. But then we talk about, in different videos, talk about strengthening the measures, and controls and systems to enforce those, sanctions. Is because now we know as a community, but we live there. We know them. We know that they are coming here because Australia now is the best place. They can, I think it was Combis that rightfully mentioned, they hire the best. They hire, the lawyers. They know how to operate in a democratic country like Australia. If they go somewhere else that, there is no rule of law, that would be hard for them. But actually living in Australia, operating in Australia is much easier for them because they can hide. They can, take the leverage of, the law and then use our financial systems. So if you look at it from a high level, Australia is the best destination for IRGC. And that's why we should not only keep this, IRGC in the listing, but also strengthen and more measures to enforce that.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Ali. I'm just mindful of time, but I just want to see if the other witnesses that haven't said anything just yet wanted to add. If the Australian Republicans or Iranian Women's Association wanted to add anything?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. You're just online now there.
Yeah. May I add,
anything?
Yeah, just a review of incidents happened.
Yep.
Back in 2023, we sat on the same parliamentary hearing, and Iranian committee came with the help of Senator Khaled back then, and expressed our views about IRGC and why we need to put IRGC as a terrorist organization. Unfortunately, nothing happened. 1 year later, we had attacks, kosher restaurant at Sydney, and arson attack on Adas Israel synagogue. And only 1 year after, the Australian government put the IRGC as a terrorist organization. My question, back to my opening as well, why we are always so late? We have countless evidence, and even back then, since we already listed, the evidences are piling up back right here in Australia and abroad. In Iran, countless evidence. All around the world, countless evidence. We shouldn't wait. Actually, today we should not just talking about this. We passed this point. Iranian community, humanitarian organizations asking way more than this. We are past this point to name IRGC as a terrorist organization. We are now talking about the regime, the entirety of the regime. As Senator Penny Wong mentioned the other day, this is an illegitimate regime. They are ordering mass killing of people. We are past, way beyond this sort of conversations, I think, and we need to take decisive action right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.